Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Beautiful day here. It's like 70 degrees outside. It's awesome. I wanted to do a video about the instrument cluster on the Ford Ranger Raptor. So this is a 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. I think it's going to be different than the regular Ranger because the pictures and stuff show up different and it has the R mode and all that stuff. So I don't know if this applies to all Rangers, but I'm sure there's some crossover. Anyway, I'm going to go through all the different gauges you can change, all the different measurements you can see. Like if you had an older car and you plugged into the OBD2, you can see a lot of the sensors. Some of that is available to you just on the instrument screen here. I'll also show a little bit on the infotainment screen of what shows up when you go into the off-road mode and the different camera views you can do, different little gauges you can get shown up on there. And then that's pretty much what the video is going to be. But it was like 25 minutes worth of edited footage over an hour of filming, and I realized that's pretty darn boring. So my oldest daughter wanted to go off-roading, so we found a trail. It's pretty dry. There was one puddle, so we went through it. But that's what's going to be in the background. It's the Rapidan Valley Road along the Rapidan River. It's really pretty. Not a lot of foliage right now, still a lot of dead trees, and it was really windy, so a lot of stuff blown over. But that's what's going to be in the background. So anyway, that's going to be the video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hey everybody, I'm in my Ranger Raptor. I wanted to go over the gauge clusters and buttons and everything and just kind of show you the different settings that you have available to you. If you already have a Ranger Raptor, you probably know all this. If you're looking at getting one and you want to see what kind of stuff it can show you, what can be displayed, this will be a worthwhile video. So on the right hand side, you got your OK button, your up and your down, and then your menu button. You also have your R or your My Mode button, your track forward, track back, or next station, whatever, exhaust, suspension, steering mode, whether it be comfort or normal or sport. And then over here, you've got cruise control, turning it on and off. This is cancel resume. You can set it by either pressing up or down, and then you can speed yourself up or slow yourself down just by holding it. You have this limb button. I never use it. It takes the forward-looking camera, finds the speed limit, and limits you to that. You can change the limit up or down from that. I didn't like it. Maybe it's useful to some people. I've done another video on it before. You've also got your follow distance when you're doing adaptive cruise control. So there's 4 settings there. 4 bars is the furthest, and then it comes down to 1. And that's when you're getting pretty close, but still pretty safe. This turns your lane keep assistance on and off. You got your volume up and down, and then this volume up and down are here, and then you've got your voice activation. So if you just press it quickly, it'll go into your sync voice activation. If you press and hold it and you have your phone hooked up to like CarPlay, it'll go into Siri or Alexa if you have an Android. So let's get into the actual menus. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Here's your standard menu. This is what I have when I'm driving in normal mode, just to and from like school or just a normal trip where I'm not going crazy with it. So I keep my fuel economy on here. You can see I average 14.7, which is not very good, but I realize I have a lot of idle time. I do a lot of warming up in the morning. I let it run for 10-15 minutes. And then I also, when I do videos like this, I have it running so I'm not wearing the battery down so that I have all the functions available to me. So we'll see that in a little bit. But of all the hours I have on this motor, 100 and something hours of it are idling, which is pretty piss poor. But anyway, it is what it is. So we'll get into the menu here. So the different options you have in the menu, you have My View, Trip Fuel, Off-Road, Towing, Navigation, Phone, Audio. It's blanked out because I have my audio off right now. But if you go into this, it'll give you AM, FM, Sirius, Pandora, and then CarPlay. And then you have your settings, and finally your vehicle maintenance. So let's get into the My View. Here is your standard. When you start it up, this is what you're going to be in, and you can select what you have available with the up and down arrow over here. So normal economy, trip 1, I set this for when I get an oil change. Trip 2 is the last time I filled up with gas. The next one is tire pressure. I'm up in the 40s because the last time I filled this up to 36, it was like 8 degrees outside, and now it's like 75, and I just drove about 20 minutes to get out to my kids' volleyball. So tires are hot. I got to let that air out because that's way too high. Next one down is off-road. So it tells you basically your pitch and roll, tells you if you're in all-wheel drive or two-wheel drive. It changes the degrees of the tires. So as you can see, the tires are actually turned left right there, 20 degrees. If I straighten it out, tires are straight now. So it not only does it just give you the number, but it actually turns the tires that because the steering wheel is making it so it won't focus. But anyway, I pulled into a parking spot, so I'm turned left, the tires turn left. I think that's kind of cool. I'm 1 degree nose down, or 2 degrees nose down, and then 1 degree angle to the left, maybe because I'm a fatty and I'm on the driver's side and it's making the whole thing go left. Or we're at a slope. We'll go with that. I'm not that fat. All right, next one down is the My Gauges. You can pick any two of the things you want to see. So I pick engine oil temperature and then transmission temperature. I've got engine oil pressure up here. I've also got transmission temperature up here, but that's just a gauge from cold to hot. This actually gives me the temperature. So we go down in here, and here are your measurements. Here's the options you have for those two on the other screen. Engine oil pressure, right now 21.8, but if you get on the gas, it'll go up, obviously, as it spins the pump a little faster. Engine oil temperature, air charge temperature, transmission temperature, and then vacuum or boost. So it's inches, HG, I think that's mercury, I'm not sure, for the vacuum. And then if you go into boost, it'll show in PSI. This is in imperial. If you go over to the metric system, it's going to show you in bar of pressure. Same with the engine oil pressure. And then temperatures will be in Celsius. Actually, so to go to your second set, you just press the OK button, and it gives you your battery voltage, air fuel ratio, air inlet temperature, and then cylinder head temperature. So you have inlet air temperature, and then air charge temperature. I don't know, one of them is going to be the air coming in pre-turbochargers, and the other one is going to be post-turbochargers, so once it's compressed. So right now they're pretty similar, but when you're out there driving, the compressed air is probably going to be hotter. But then it's interesting, if it's really hot and you're pulling air in, it's moving faster. I don't know why I'm going through this. Anyway, you have two different ones, air charge temperature and intake temperature. So if you know the difference between those, please let me know. I know one's different, and I'm pretty sure one is post boost and one is pre-boost, upstream and downstream of the turbochargers. I'm gonna stop talking about stuff I don't know about. Okay, I'm gonna pause the instrument thing right now and tell you I was paying more attention to the inlet air temperature and the air charge temperatures as I was driving down the street on the highway. 70 degrees outside. The inlet air temperature, I am convinced, is measured before the turbos as it comes into the engine bay. When you're driving down the highway, or for me, when I was driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour, 70 degrees, it was showing like 85, 86, and then the air charge temperature was like 90. So the air charge temperature is after the turbos, after the intercooler. So it's pressurized air, which would heat it up, but it goes through the intercooler, that cools it back down, still a couple of degrees hotter than the intake temperature. The intake temperature is going to be a little bit hotter than the ambient temperature because it's already in the engine bay and it's heating up just a little bit because it's hot inside the engine bay. When you're just at idle, sometimes you'll see the two temperatures are almost identical, and then there's times where the charge temperature is actually lower, and I think the reason for that is there are times when you'll be pulling a vacuum. So if it's, again today, it was 70 degrees outside, the intake air temperature was 115, just because it was hot inside of here. I was sitting at idle at a red light, so it was 115 intake air temperature. I was drawing a little bit of a vacuum, and it was like 112 on the charge temperature. So they will go back and forth, but the idea is the charge temperature is the air going into the combustion chamber. The intake air temperature is inside the engine compartment, but before any turbos, before any intercooler. So hopefully that helps. And if I'm wrong on that, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So anyway, back to the video. Cheers. So that was it for the My View. Now we'll get into the trip and fuel. And this is just, the My View is any of the ones you select. These are all the different options here now. So you go into the trip fuel, it gives you option for trip 1, you got option for trip 2, you've got your fuel economy, and then your auto start stop. Mine is always deactivated. I installed the auto start stop eliminator from 4D Tech when I first bought the truck, and I'm so glad I did. There's a button on the center console, I'll show you near the end, to turn it on and off. Down here by the parking assist, the traction control off, and then the off-road screen on your infotainment center. So I always forgot to turn that off when I was just taking my kids to school, and it drove me crazy when it would stop my truck at the stop sign 100 yards down the street from my house. So I just bought the thing, plugged it in. It was like $100, totally worth it. I'm gonna put one on my wife's Lincoln Aviator because hers does the same thing and it drives me crazy. Next one down, seat belts. This just tells you there is weight in the driver's seat and the seat belt is not fastened. If I put my seat belt on, it'll turn green. If someone got in the passenger seat now that we're on and going, I think it would turn on. It might take a little bit. Same in the back seats. You can make this one of the things in the My View. So if you have kids that don't always buckle up, you can scroll down and see if it's red. You know they're sitting there, but it's not plugged in. I don't go anywhere unless I make sure everybody's buckled in, so I'm not too worried about that. And then the last one you have is driver assistance. This one's interesting. As you're driving, this blue, as a car gets in front of you, it'll turn yellow if you're getting close, red if you're way close. So I think it's like the 2-second rule. If you have 2 seconds of space between the car in front of you and yourself, you're going to be blue. If you get down to like anywhere between 2 and 1.5 maybe, it'll go yellow. And then if you're down anything lower than 1.5 or whatever it is, it's red. So it is dependent on speed. If you're going 20 miles an hour, you can be closer than if you're going 50 miles an hour based on the colors. But really it just tells you if you're a safe following distance to stop. It's a little conservative on my side, but better to be safe than sorry. And then the left and right, as you are driving down the road, if you start veering right or left, this thing will go right and left and show you kind of like, hey, you're veering left or you're veering right. And if it sees the lines, those will be green. If it doesn't see the line, one will turn orange. So I never use it, but it is a feature if you really want to watch it. I just look out my windshield. So that was the trip and fuel, nothing crazy cool there. Off-road. So I have some of these picked in my view. You've got your off-road status, which we've already seen. This is your pitch and roll and your steering angle. You come down one, you got your Raptor status. When you first start your truck, everything's going to be in normal, and the off-road mode or the off-road screen is going to be off. This is where if you were to go into Raptor mode, for example, so if I press my R button, I'm going to do this, press the R button twice, and now you'll see it put me into what I have my presets of sport mode, normal for the traction control, sport steering, sport suspension, and sport exhaust, and then the off-road stuff is off, and I'm in 4A. You can see that right down there, so 4 auto. Next to that, my heading is southeast. That's sport mode, mileage. My auto start stop is off. That's the lane assist. You can turn it off with the button on the steering wheel for lane assist right here, and it goes away. I just keep it on. It doesn't bother me. Some people really don't like it. On the right-hand side, you've got temperature, and then those are all your modes. And that R means I'm in my R mode. If I changed anything on the steering wheel, like if I change this to off-road, once it takes it, it changes it down here, but it takes me out of the R mode. So go back into the R mode by pressing it twice. And there you go. To set your R mode, you just go into whatever settings you want. So set your steering, your dampers, your exhaust. You can turn your auto start stop on and off. You can go into 2-wheel drive, 4 auto, whatever. And then you just press and hold the R button and it'll show you, it'll go across the screen and tell you this is what you're setting. So anyway, that's the Raptor settings. Then you get in here, pitch and roll. It's just another version of what we saw in the other ones. Here are your My gauges. So of all the different gauges you have accessible to you, you can pick 2 to show here and actually show the temperatures and numbers. I have engine oil temperature and transmission temperature as my 2 selected. As you can see up on the top, you've got your coolant temperature. I have oil pressure, transmission temperature, and then fuel. So you cannot change your fuel and you cannot change your coolant temperature, but you are able to change these 2 here, and they do not associate with your My gauges. I'll show you that in a little bit. Next down, you've got your measurements. So any of these measurements that you see here, you can pick as these 2 that are showing up on the My gauges. So you've got engine oil pressure, engine oil temperature, air charge temperature, transmission temperature, vacuum boost, and then battery voltage, air fuel ratio, inlet air temperature, and cylinder head temperature. And then the last one is your driver assistance. Same thing, but this one has a little R there, and it's basically what you saw on the other options. So there you go, off-road status, that's all of those options. Now we go into towing. I don't tow anything with my truck, but you do have some options. So you have your trailer information here. You can set different trailers on your actual infotainment system, but in here you can see how often you're in trailering mode, I guess, or how often you have something plugged in. It'll tell you how far you've gone with that. The trailer gain, I think, has to do with the brakes, which you have over here. I don't have a thing hooked up, but there it is. And then you have your fuel economy while you're towing. Next one down, trailer light setup. You have an option in this truck to have it go through a check. So if you plug the a trailer in, it'll go through the braking, it'll go through the taillights, and it'll go through the blinkers, and it'll go and go and go until you tell it it's good. Next one down, your towing status, basically your pitch and roll, and then the gain you have again, and then the direction of your steering. So I'm curious if I turn it, the wheels do turn. That's kind of cool. I didn't think they were going to. That's a neat, I guess it's a neat feature. I think it's cool that they actually thought through that and did that. Next one down, driver assistance. We've seen this a bunch of times. Nothing special there. So that is everything under the trailer information. There is more trailer stuff on your infotainment system. I'll get into that in a minute, but it won't be in detail for that. Next one down is navigation. I don't use the in-vehicle navigation for anything in my truck. I always use Google Maps or Waze because that actually has live traffic. It has where the police officers are that other people are reporting, things like that. But if you want to, you can set it up in here, put your house in there. I've heard people say, no, don't put your house in there because if someone carjacks you, they can figure out where you live and go to your house, and then they're housejacking you or whatever. Previous destinations, favorites. I don't have anything in any of those, but it does have point of interest nearby. You can go in there and look up restaurants, gas, ATMs, lodging, things like that. I don't know how often this is updated. Like Google Maps is updated constantly as people are putting more information in there. I don't know if this is like set when I bought it in 2024 and in 5 years it's going to be upgraded or not. I don't use it enough to tell you. Next thing down. Really, we've gone through all this. So there's the navigation. I don't use it, but if you want to use it, you can. If you do go into your navigation through your vehicle, it'll put your prompts right here. If you do it through Google Maps or Waze or something through CarPlay, it's only going to be on your big screen to the right. Next one is phone. I had to disconnect my phone to do this because I record on my phone, and every time I have it hooked up, it messes everything up and kills the video. So normally, if you go into phone, it would say like, you know, wife's phone, my phone, iPad, whatever, anything you've ever hooked up to. So it's really just giving you options. And once you're in one, it'll do all calls, outgoing calls, incoming calls, things like that. So you can just go through this to make a call to someone that you called recently, and it syncs up to your phone. So the last person you called on your phone will show up here. It's a neat way to make a phone call, but I always just use the Siri button and just say, hey, call Lori or call Cammy or whatever. So I don't use this option, but it is there if you want to, you know, push the buttons to get there. Audio, I have my radio off again because I'm recording in my vehicle, but if you select this one, it says audio off, but normally it would say AM, FM, Sirius, Pandora, or CarPlay. So you can pick one of those 5. Now we got settings. So this is where you can actually change those 2 gauges up top. So if I'm going to go into gauge, configuration of gauges, showing the gauges, you can turn them off, and then all you have is engine coolant temperature and your fuel. If you turn them on, you can go in and select the 2 that you want. So I have oil pressure picked on the left and transmission temperature on the right. That's why it's grayed out. You can't have the same thing on both sides. I could change it to vacuum boost, battery voltage, air charge temperature. You can pick any of those same things you saw on the measurements. But again, I like oil pressure because if I'm out on a trail and a rock shears off my engine oil pan, I'm going to know real quick because it's going to sound terrible, but I'm also going to lose all pressure. And then I also use transmission temperature just because it's good to know how hot your transmission is running. If you're really like racing around and doing a bunch of 0 to 60 runs, you're just doing it, your transmission's going to warm up. So it's always good to have an eye on that. Vacuum boost, battery voltage, stuff like that. I think warnings are going to come up if you have issues with that. Warnings will come up on any of them, but those are the ones you have options. One that I used for a while was the boost, but I didn't really care too much to see when it was in vacuum, when it was in boost. It wasn't a big deal. So that's it for the gauges. Then you can go down here. You can turn on a secondary speedometer, so it'll give you miles per hour and kilometers per hour. I don't need that, but if you wanted to have it, you could. And then turn-by-turn notifications. That's for the navigation. I think if you have it set up, it'll come on in here. And the last one is performance shift indicator. If you turn it on, it puts a thing over here on your tachometer, and then you can set the shift point. So if you want it to ding at you when you hit 5,000 RPM, you say okay there. It does not change how the transmission is tuned. It only gives you an audio and visual warning when you're getting up there in the RPM. So it'll ding kind of quietly, and then it'll flash as you're above it. But it's not going to make it shift any sooner. So if you love to use your paddle shifters, maybe this will help you. I never actually did this until today when I was getting ready for this video, and it's kind of neat, I guess, but I don't use it. So there you go. You can also turn the tone on where it'll ding at you, but I don't use either of those. Just something cool if you wanted to play with it. That's it for the settings. The last thing in here is your vehicle maintenance. So tire pressure. Like I said earlier, I'm at 44 because it's hot outside, and I filled it up when it was like 8 degrees out, so I got to let air out. Next one you have is engine information. So I have 661 engine hours, and 174 of those are at idle. I think that means sitting at a red light, sitting in traffic. It's also when I start my truck in the mornings and let it run for 10 to 15 minutes before I drive anywhere, that's adding up. Things like this when I'm recording this video. This is the 4th time I've tried to record this to get it right and have my camera work. So I always do my videos with the car on or with the truck on, so I have all the options, everything the way it's going to be when I'm actually driving it. So anyway, idle hours, that probably affects my fuel mileage. And I always have the auto start stop eliminator turned off. So I'm curious to see what you other guys that have driven, for 6 months, 10,000 miles, whatever it is, I'm curious what your ratio is of engine hours to idle hours, and if I am like the highest of everybody or if other people are up there too. I'm guessing cold climates where you have to wait for your kids, you might idle more, but I'll be curious. So please let me know what yours is. Last one on here is oil life. This is the last time it was reset. If you change your oil and don't reset this, it's not a sensor that knows how good your oil is. It's strictly basing it off of engine hours, maybe RPMs, I doubt that, speed, how hard you're driving. I'm guessing it's just on engine hours or mileage. I don't think it's going to take that other stuff into account, but maybe it will. And to reset it's super easy. You just go in here and then you press and hold. I'm not going to do it this time, but it'll go all the way across and it'll go back to 100%. So if you change your own oil, it's really easy to get in here. It's not like a Toyota where you got to press the start button while you're pressing the trip button and you hit the gas or pull on brake or whatever it is and press it 4 times. This one is in your menu, really easy to get to. That's it for the views on there. I want to show you quickly the other things that we have on here. So, all right, so you've got your infotainment system thing there. Down here, you've got your off-road button. This is your parking sensor, not parking sensor, your auto parking thing, which I've never actually used, but this truck will park itself. You have your traction control on and off, and then you have your auto start stop. Like I said, I installed the 4D Tech auto start stop eliminator. I'm about to put one in my wife's Lincoln Aviator. This is your off-road button. So this is the one that I actually use. So you press that and it gives you your forward-looking camera. It changes the direction of your wheels. So if you turn, it's going to show you where you're tracking. It's pretty accurate. And then you've also got down here, sorry, it's really bright. You've got your, since it's all blue, I'm in 4 auto. If I locked it out and put it into like 4 high, I think that changes to like a black and white hash mark. You can also turn off your parking sensors down there. And then you have a couple other options for your video. You can have like a 180 out front. You can have a whole car picture if I actually pushed it. There you got your 360 and your forward. You can see your trailer hitch if you had a trailer hitch. And you can see the 2 directions behind you. When I'm out on the trails, this is the one I use because if you're going up over a rise and you can't see over the hood, you can get an idea if there's a big rock that you're about to hit. And then down here, you can change this to your pitch and roll here, which I don't use because I keep my pitch and roll on my gauges when I'm off-roading. And then the other option you have is your parking sensor. I don't know what this does. I've never actually used it. When I'm out on a trail, I turn this off because I don't want every little bush and brush to be setting it off. It gets really annoying. You can also set your off-road cruise control to like crawl you around at 3 miles per hour. You can lock your front and rear differential, but really this is just telling you what mode you have to be in. If you try to lock your front differential, it's going to tell you got to get into rock crawl mode. You got to be in 4 low to do that. So just another cool thing in there. If we go back to the normal menu, I said I would show you very quickly the towing stuff. So you go into towing, and then no active trailer. You can add a trailer. You can, I don't know what light is. Oh, this is the different, so this is a light trailer, I guess. Go into default trailer. You could add another trailer. Right now there's nothing active, there's nothing plugged in. You can go through your checklist. You can actually tell it to do a test for you. I haven't done it, but trailer light check. So here you go. You could press start on that. it's going to go through your brakes, it's going to go through your turn signals, and then your reverse lamps. So just something cool to have. That's really all there is in here that's neat to see. The driver assistance, I don't use any of this stuff. You can change your ambient lighting and stuff in here with all these different, but that's not what this is for. I've already done a video on a lot of that stuff. So there you go. That's your trailer stuff. Not going to go into all the other options you have on here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else great that I use on here. General. I guess if you want to change your measurements, you can do that here. Display dark mode. Go to that. It's so much better than being in light mode. So go to light mode, and then so that's, to me, that's, I don't like it. It's so much better if you're in dark mode. It looks better. It's not as bright. It's not as distracting. And then you got your, I don't want to change my clock. It's kind of a bummer you can't go to 24 hours on that, but it is, oh wait. Okay, so you can go to 24 hours. I think that's awesome. And then I'm going to turn that on too, just so we have auto time and everything like that. Ambient lighting, you can change the brightness of your ambient lighting, but you can't change the color of it. And that's just a little light down, like on your doors and little tiny things. Like there's one in this section down here, they're on your doors, and that's really it. I think there might be one that like lights up in there. But anyway, those are your instruments. Hopefully this was useful to you. If you already have one of these trucks and you know something I didn't talk about, please put it in the comments. If you learned something, awesome. If you don't have one of these and you're thinking about it, now you know what you can see on your instrument cluster. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I want to ask you guys a question. So I am 100% anti-road rage. I'm the guy that will, I don't leave a ton of space so everybody's cutting me off, but if I see someone who needs to get in, I'll back off a little bit, let them in. But if I see someone driving like a complete clown, I'm not going to go out of my way to let them in. I'm going to go out of my way to avoid an accident, but I'm not going to make his life easier if I can avoid it, or if I can help it, I guess. What's the right way to say that? So on my way home today, there was like this late 90s Chevy Cavalier with one headlight burned out. We're on a road where it's 2 lanes in each direction with a huge open median and really no shoulder, just the yellow line or the white line there, and then maybe a foot of pavement. So this guy comes up on me. There's like 20 or 30 cars ahead of both of the lanes. Traffic ahead, you can't go anywhere. He comes up, kind of slams on the brakes, gets behind me, and starts looking out to the side, like getting on the shoulder. So you can see his head, I'm looking at him. So I just pulled over just enough that he couldn't see around me, and you could tell it drove the guy nuts. But I'm curious, like, what did he think I was gonna do? I was gonna get intimidated and move over so he could get one car ahead of me? I mean, it made me smile inside to know that I pissed him off a little bit. But then again, I think about it, maybe I just made him more mad and he's gonna go get in an accident somewhere else. Either way, I don't know if you guys would have done that too, or if you do that. I mean, again, I like to be the nice guy. I like that song from the 90s. All I want to do is to thank you, even though I don't know who you are. You let me change lanes when I was driving in my car. I mean, that's a great song, and the concept is there. So anyway, curious what you guys think. The guy, I might be able to find the video on my dash cam, and I'll put it up here as well, but I don't know if I still have it. Anyway, that's the video. Hopefully it's useful to anybody. If you don't have one of these cars, these trucks, and you want to see what's available to you, this is where to see it. So cheers, enjoy the video.
It's over!